Hey everybody, it's Odd Dustin and welcome back into the Mosh Pit. I wanted to talk a little bit about a Souls-like that just came out, Another Crab's Treasure, and kind of go over my my impressions of it after playing it for a week, and I'm excited to get back into it. The combat feels really good. I play a lot of these Souls-likes. I love Souls-likes. They have the same kind of light, medium, and heavy dodges depending on what kind of gear you're wearing, so you can kind of mix things up. You only get the one weapon though. You have a fork. It can be upgraded when you find the blacksmith, and they've got, you know, typical Souls type blacksmith that's clanging away and making an obnoxious noise the whole time that you're there. So that has been really fun to find the little things and characters within the game that reference Dark Souls and Elden Ring type tropes. There is a guy in the beginning of the game that walks around, a little lobster that walks around holding a huge weapon that if you get near him, he will try to attack you, but he's just chilling, walking back and forth. That's very similar to the Elden Ring. You've got a very large, do not touch that guy kind of challenge in the beginning if you wanted to try to 1v1 me bro kind of thing. Instead of souls, you're collecting microplastics because, of course, the ocean is full of microplastics now, and there is a common theme about talking about junk and trash that's polluting the world and corrupting all of the sea bugs, which you fight a lot of sea bugs. We'll talk about some of the drawbacks and bugs that I've been experiencing this week towards the end of this video, so I want to talk about what I'm enjoying right now, which is all of it. Really, I mean, there's only a very small amount of things that have been frustrating. The way that this game, since you only have the one weapon, the way that this game really kind of turns it up. Like if you look at Souls-likes, they tend to change something about their game to kind of stand out amongst the crowd and say, okay, we're a Souls-like, but here's our thing, you know, like here's our gimmick that's different than Souls, and it maybe have one or two things in it. This one has, since it only has the one weapon that you're fighting with, the thing that you're changing up and your playstyle can change pretty drastically is around the shells, and there's a ton of shells. Each shell has a power that you can use, the power of umami. I've kind of gravitated towards the coconut. Once I found the coconut, I really kind of liked the way that it worked. But there's a ton of different shells, and you can experiment with them, and they have durability and will break. You can get shell insurance eventually when you make it into New Carcinia, but the shells will break eventually when you're playing, and even if you have shell insurance, they'll break. The shell insurance just will provide you with a new shell when you respawn. So if you die, you come back with the shell that you favorited on, which is that's been really helpful, because sometimes I have no shell, I'm using some crappy shell, and I knew I was going to die anyway, and I know I can just reset and start over again. But all of the shells are also able to parry eventually. If you unlock the parry skill, you can parry things. And the way you parry things is not by putting your shell up and hitting a parry button per se. It's turtling up, because you know you're a hermit crab, so you get inside your shell, and then you come out right at the right time. You just release it right at the right time as something's hitting. You know, similar parry timing to other things that you need. The parry window is not very generous and a little frustrating at times, because I'm not really used to doing parries in that way. So if you do get a parry off, it doesn't do any damage to your shell, and you will provide a huge amount of stun damage to whoever you're fighting. Sometimes it's enough stun damage to put them into a stunned state, and at that point you can use a heavy attack, a charged attack as it were, to knock them over. And if you can knock somebody over, then they're stunned either on their back or down, you know, in a way that they're not fighting back, and you're just doing all damage. So that when you can get one of those off, you know, as with anything with Souls games, getting the timing right on the parry is one thing. When they're in the stun state, they're still normal movement, so you have to get a charged attack on them, and some of these enemies are fast. So it's not always super easy to just do parries and stun enemies, but it is very satisfying when you do get one of those off. One thing that I have noticed is there's not really a backstab in this. They didn't add really, like, if I start sneaking up behind somebody, they notice me and turn around. So that's been kind of odd. I've been wanting to do backstabs, but there are plunge attacks and other things that are very similar to other Souls-like games. The combat itself is probably, that and the exploration have been a whole lot of fun. Now, I was talking about the powers. Some of the shells, I've been trying on every single one. If I find one, I try it on, but I have not been trying out all the powers. I've just been collecting them because I want all the shells. But I have tried out the powers on some to see. So if you get a Keurig pack, you have these little Keurig cups you get in that, and it'll give you a little bit of extra speed. It coffees you up. If you find one of the sushi rolls, you can use it to gain health. It is a consumable almost because you do it, I think, 3 times and the shell goes away. There's a decoy crab that you can hop in and then hop right out, and it distracts the enemy and makes them fight the decoy instead. So there's a whole bunch of different powers. The coconut itself rolls and does quite a bit of stun damage. And it has a ton of health. The biggest problem is that it's so heavy that you don't really get to roll. You kind of just do a fall over and slide. But I really like the coconut just because of that stun damage, and at times you can use it to get away and roll away from people if you can time it right. The exploration's been good. It's been a little confusing. It's pretty wide open. I mean, you got the sea, so a lot of times you don't really know where to go because there's so large of a space to cover. But for the most part, it's been very Souls-like in its tropes. There's shortcuts that you can unlock. There's this way is blocked, or you can't go this way yet kind of areas. There's a couple of different large doors that I've had to open. There is a lot more verticality to this because you have a hook and a string where you can use that to kind of spin around to different places, lock onto nets, go traversing all around and looking for little hidden secrets, especially in Carcinia. There's a lot of stuff on the roofs down in the slums that you can find, little like bread clips and chip clips and hair clips, a lot of clips. Seems like the Souls currency that you can find, the item that you can take back to the vendor and get more microplastics for, all seem to be clips, bread clips, chip clips, hair clips, that kind of thing. Those you do have to take back to a pawn shop in town to get the microplastics from them. I wish that there was a way to just pop them or break them or something where I get to keep the microplastics just out in the world, so that way if I have a bunch of them I could do a level up without having to go into the city. They had that in Dark Souls, and they don't have that here. You have to go back to the pawn shop and talk to the dude. He sells other things as well, but you can sell all your clips and go take your clips, trade them in, get your microplastics, either level up or purchase things. Now, one of the things you would think in a Souls game, this wouldn't be a huge highlight, but they've switched it up. The writing and the people that you're talking to are not so hidden and cagey with their weirdness. They're very direct, and the writing is pretty hilarious. There are a lot of puns and jokes and just oddness. If you talk to everybody like I did, I walked around, just talked to everybody I found that had a little speech bubble in Carcinia. Oh my God, there is some funny shit in there. And definitely some callbacks to Dark Souls, Elden Ring, things like that, Bloodborne. There is a Bloodborne mechanic that I found actually that if your shell takes damage and then you do damage, you get that shell health. Which I'm still a little weirded out that they didn't call it shelf. Come on, man. We need to call it shelf. Change it up. If you guys are watching this, small team, give it up to Aggro Crab up there in Seattle. If you're watching this, it needs to be shelf. Come on. If you do another Crab's Treasure 2, it needs to be shelf. But yeah, I would suggest not skipping anybody that has a speech bubble. There are a lot of different little hidden things throughout. I even found one that was a little hidden quest that I could help a guy out who was kind of stuck on top of a sandcastle. Oh, if I hadn't talked to him and I hadn't approached this scary little bunch of crabs that were keeping him up on the sandcastle, I wouldn't have got that quest. So, yeah, talk to everybody. There's a lot of funny shit going on. Now, the things that have been holding me back from absolutely falling in love with this game have been some bugs. There's some stuttering when you load into certain areas. The game will basically go down to a couple of frames for a second. That's been a little frustrating. Not into the world, because it goes away as soon as you're out of an area. For the most part, once you get into that area, it doesn't do that. But I have found a couple of different places where when you transition to and from a certain section of the game, you can tell that it's loading something in the background. And my computer is not top of the line, but I've got a 2060. It's installed on an NVMe drive, so there shouldn't be any kind of lag for this game going in between things. I think it's just a bug, because it happens consistently every single time when I go into that one area. Some of the boss fights have started really weird and glitchy, and I don't know. Sometimes the screen shake is one thing when it comes to something like that, because it pops in and he starts yelling at you and stuff, and it's been really kind of weird and lagged out and a little framey as well at the very beginning of when the boss yells at you. When you actually get into the fight and start fighting, it's fine. It's just those cutscenes are a little weird, and one in particular about mid-game seems just has a weird audio glitch as well. So I went into their Discord, started an account up on their Discord so that I could report a bug that I was having with a boss where I was getting thrown into the world. I would fight the boss. He would start second phase, and when he came out to hit me, it hit me underneath the map, and I would just fall to my death. And that was not fun. I finally just gave up on the game on Friday because I just couldn't get past this boss. It was a difficult boss as well, but it was mostly the fact that I kept dying and losing all my health to being thrown under the world, which was very frustrating. I have found some things out about the damage. So there's some ranged guys that shoot at you, and they're very, very overtuned, in my opinion. But I think another thing is the accessibility stuff. So I found the ranged guys were overtuned. The bosses were massively overtuned, where a lot of times they could one-shot you if you make one mistake and don't block, or you have a shitty shell on that doesn't really have a whole lot of health. They'll mash right through that health and of your shelf and your health and one-shot you very easily. But because there's so many accessibility options in this game, there's a ton. I mean, you can really change things up quite a bit. If you just change the first 3 to low, it kind of turns it into what you expect it to be as far as damage, at least for me, after having played so many Souls-likes. I expect a certain amount of challenge, right? And so the default settings, if you leave all these settings off, all the enemies feel fine as far as like the amount of health that it takes to kill them. But when they hit you, some of them, especially the ranged and the boss, they hit really, really, really hard. Like the ranged guys, 2 shots and you're dead, pretty much, even through your shell. You could block some stuff. Maybe you could parry the ranged attack as it comes in. I haven't tried that. It's pretty dangerous because of how much damage they do. I usually just will try to avoid getting hit and then run up and try to fight them. Sometimes they're up in places where you can't get to them, so it's a real pain in the ass. But the shell durability, the reduced damage taken, and the lower enemy health. So if you turn all 3 of those on, that feels kind of like what I would expect from a Souls game. Especially for me, I've spec'd more towards like a heavy shell with a lot of damage for my fork. And it just doesn't feel exactly like, because the heavy shell takes so much damage. So if you just turn those 3 things on, at first I was like, I played through probably half the game, and I haven't turned it back on because I went back in and played a new game for this video, just so I have some video to play. and I tried turning these things off and on to see where they feel good and that kind of thing. And if you turn the first 3 to low, that feels pretty good. So if you're struggling with the default damage you're doing or the default damage you're taking, and you're just like, wow, this is a little bit much here. Turn those to low, because it doesn't really help that much. It's not like it's, oh, now it's easy mode and this game isn't fun. It is still a challenge. You can still get killed pretty quick. It's just slightly. So that low is actually pretty low. And I that is awesome. And the fact that you can do this, I mean, this is something where I know that there are certain people that won't play Souls games because they're so difficult. This assist mode here gives you all kinds of different options to where you're not getting, like, for one, I could turn on prevent pitfall damage for the boss fight that's bugged right now that keeps throwing me through the world. I will fall through the world and then I'll respawn back into the boss fight without having taken any damage. So I could do that just to get past this one bug, for example. So don't be too afraid to try some of this stuff out, see if it works for you. Instead of giving up on the game, I would definitely try the assist mode. And lastly, the enemy variety. It's not huge. It's been pretty good. I mean, there's some differences when you get into certain areas and some things that change it up. But for the most part, you're fighting sea bugs, lobsters and crabs, and some fish in the early game. But really, the enemy variety is probably the place where I think if they made a second game, if like this one seems to be pretty popular for them. So I'm really happy that they have had so much success here. I think they really need to be fighting more things than just crabs and lobsters. But if you think about, like, things that you fight in the sea, the stuff that's crawling around on the ground is probably where you're walking around on the ground as well. So it makes sense that you're fighting things that crawl around on the ground. But I think it would be cool to have a little bit more fish variety. I've only seen puffer fish and just a regular, like, I don't know what you would call it, regular fish. Catfish, dogfish, I don't know. And then most of the rest of the stuff's been crabs and lobsters and things like that. So I would like to see a little bit more enemy variety, but for a small team, I think they've got like 12 people or something like that. I went and looked at their website and saw that they're near me up in Seattle, and yeah, it's a small team, so this has to be overwhelming for them. The bug reports on their Discord, it's just pages and pages. It's like, last reported an hour ago, last reported 2 hours ago. So there's a lot of people playing this. If you're playing on PC, you're probably going to get the, through Steam, you're probably going to get the updates faster. I'm playing on PC, but I'm playing through the Game Pass app, and it is not getting the updates. They are updating. They're able to update Switch, PlayStation 5, and Steam way faster than they can update Xbox. So if you're experiencing some big issues and you want to wait for a patch, you're going to wait a little bit longer if you're playing on Game Pass. That's just the nature of how updates get updated, and I'm used to that already. Game Pass always, Xbox, for some reason, their approval process for their updates is quite extensive. And it just takes a lot longer for them to release things. So yeah, that's another Crab's Treasure. I am really enjoying this game, other than the frustrating bugs and some of the overtuned damage that I'm probably going to turn on the accessibility options to low for myself to finish the rest of the game. I don't know. I played all the way through without doing that, so I don't know. Maybe I'll do my first playthrough without turning any accessibility options and just challenge myself, but we'll see. If you want to see some of that, you can watch some of the VODs on the stream over on Twitch. I will be there streaming this week, some more, and some other games as well. Thanks for watching. If you haven't hit that button already, throw a subscribe my way if you like this kind of content, and let me know what you think of this game. Are you playing another Crab's Treasure? If so, how are you enjoying it? And let's talk Souls in the comments. Take it easy, everybody.